Year on year, you have increased the international student target. Year on year, you have brought on new public policies. Look at the policies the government has made. What about the fact that you came out with the public policy because you wanted the foreign workers in Canada to hold, and therefore you extended postgraduate work permit once, twice, thrice, three times, right? Not only that, you also included other English language tests. There's a lot of talk about the housing crisis in Canada and how international students are the direct result and there should be a cap, etc., etc. Well, blaming the international students for the housing crisis, I understand that when the numbers of international students increase, obviously there will be a demand for the housing and therefore the housing, a so-called crisis. But that's not how you should be looking at it. Canadian government has been allowing not only the international student, but several other people into Canada as well. And this is a collective demand for housing. Year on year, we have increased the immigration targets. Year on year, you have increased the international student target. Year on year, you have brought on new public policies, which has further put a huge pressure on the economy in terms of providing the housing. So why just single out the international students? Okay, fair enough. Last year, there was about 500, 600,000 international students who were approved. This year, it is about 900,000. But look at the policies the government has made. So before you take out your gun and start shooting the international students and say, these are the people who are responsible, just hold your horses. Just look at it have a more pragmatic approach to it, have a more holistic approach to it, have a more complete perspective of it, right? Okay, international students, they have approved about 900,000 new international students to Canada. Okay, fair enough. So you want to blame them. But what about the fact that you came out with the public policy because you wanted the foreign workers in Canada to hold, to stay put, and therefore you extended postgraduate work permit once, twice, thrice, three times, right? You did that. Then you changed the requirement for international students. Now, basically, with the English language requirements, even slightly lower IELTS bands overall would also be accepted for the STS stream. Well, you did that. Not only that, you also included other English language tests so that it becomes easier for the international students to apply. Well, if it is such a big problem with the international students, why are you trying to do this? Another one. You further made it easier. This is when I'm saying you, I'm talking about Canada and the Canadian government and IRCC. You further made it easier for the spouses of the international students and the foreign workers to come to Canada. So what I'm talking about is that this is not for international students, but basically the foreign workers. So if you're a foreign worker in Canada, earlier, you had to be working in NOC OAB jobs before you could have your spouse join you with an open work permit. You removed that condition, you removed that requirement. You basically said anybody who's a foreign worker in Canada, as long as you're working, your spouse can join you. They can get an open work permit. So you allowed more people to come into Canada. Then obviously the temporary residence visas. Well, we know there are a lot of visas that get refused, but you also do approve tons and tons and tons of visit visas. Lately, you can go on Instagram, go on TikTok. It's a common video everybody wants to make. Come to Canada on a visit visa, convert it into a work permit. Come to Canada on a visit visa, convert it into a study permit. I mean, there is some sort of a promotion going on which says that, come to Canada on a visit visa and then therefore you will be able to get into a work permit, blah, blah, blah. So you've seen increasing number of people who are coming on visit visa who are primarily not coming to visit Canada for a few days, weeks, but are now looking to stay put here for X number of days. Then, hold on, I'm not done. Then, let's talk about Ukrainians. I mean, nobody wants to be in a war situation, of course, and I'm absolute, sympathy and all my heart goes out to whatever is happening over there. But we're talking about the numbers here, so let's stay practical. I'm not going to go into the human emotional thing about who you allow, who you do not allow, but purely on the numbers. More than 1 million Ukrainians applied for visas to Canada. Okay, approximately 800,000 plus, I think it is now closer to 900,000, probably million now, have been approved. I do not know the exact numbers who have already arrived in Canada, but if so many have been approved, you will see a lot of them coming into Canada anyways. Hong Kong, when the problems were happening in Hong Kong, of course, a lot of people from Hong Kong were allowed to come into Canada. They were allowed to obtain work permits. They were allowed to obtain permanent resident pathway. Those numbers also got added. We have people who were running away from war and persecution in Afghanistan. We had 40,000 of those people coming in. Not only that, you have an ongoing influx of refugees, you have an ongoing influx of people who are seeking asylum, who are seeking protection. Those numbers also keep coming up, right? If you count the number of people that you have now, and of course, there was a recent report which said that the way IRCC is counting its numbers, or the way ESDC is counting its numbers, Stats Canada is counting its number, it's way off by almost 1 million. So when they did the population census counting, they forgot, or somehow they managed to mess it up, that they counted more than 1 million people less, which basically means Canada's population is not 40 million, but more than 40 million, probably 41. And I would say close to 42, if you want to count it in that manner. So with that, with all these big numbers that are looming on the horizon, you still want to target international students? So I am not saying that the international students and large increasing numbers are not directly contributing to this, but why target only them? That's what my problem. My problem is not with the understanding of the numbers. My problem is why target only one specific. And they obviously, there is a talk that they want to cap the international students. They do not want, they want to restrict the number of international students. Do you think that's really going to happen? It's a $26 billion industry. The education institutions in Canada over here are getting direct benefit from the international students coming into Canada. Mind you, international students in coming into Canada also feed the labor market. Right now, the basic entry-level jobs, majority of them are being done by the international students who are either working part-time, or in a lot of cases, as you and I know, working cash jobs or working more than the 20 hours that they're allowed to work. In addition to that, because international students are here, they obviously also feed the economy. They are bringing money. At the end of the day, they're coming here, they are working here, they're doing the jobs that nobody else wants to do. They're obviously paying the taxes while they're working. Of course, if they're making money, they have to pay the taxes as well. They are also, in all different ways, feeding the economy. How can you, ignore that factor as well? You remove this 900,000 plus people, you remove these 1 million people away, and see how badly the economy gets impacted. The colleges, the institutions, the universities are making more money out of the international students that they can ever make from the domestic students. On the contrary, if you have read the reports, Ontario, which also is supposed to provide funding to the colleges and universities, actually scaled back on the amount of funding that they provide, because the international students were coming and they were paying for all the amount of money that the colleges and universities needed. Ontario didn't have to fund them, or actually the funding amount was reduced drastically. So with all that, and the governments being aware, and the provincial governments and the federal government being aware, you really think they're going to do anything about it? So at the end of the day, why bring out all this hatred? Why bring out all this negativity only towards one community? Why? Because you see the headlines and that is what happens. If you're still here, then please do subscribe to the channel, and of course, like, share, and do whatever you need to do with the video. Thank you so much. I shall see you next time.